I work with probably over 1,000 people about their thyroid, and part of my interest has been because I have hypothyroid and Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune disorder. So actually wasn't, when I was in my endocrinology classes at Bastyr University, which is in Seattle, Washington, I was going through this, signs and symptoms, and like, oh, yes. So I went to my doctor, said, hey, can you test all these things? And she's like, oh yeah, you have hypothyroid. And later I found out it runs in my family, and it's not uncommon actually to find a kind of a triad of celiac disease, iron deficient anemia, and hypothyroid. So they often show up together. It's kind of interesting. So I've been practicing here in Tucson now for 8 years at a place called Wellness First. And our organization, we have 6 different practitioners. It's all integrative, and we try to be kind of one-stop shopping for the patient. So my business is called Transformational Medicine because I want to help people to transform their lives for whatever's the best for them. So it's a very individualized kind of thing, which naturopathy is, that's how we work. It's about the person, it's about the whole person. So my initial exams are like 2 hours to start because, we're very complicated beings. We have a lot to say about how did we get to today. And I combine that with a very comprehensive physical exam as well as pretty comprehensive lab work. So part of that testing is to do 10 different tests for thyroid. And there's actually a couple others that we can do on top of that if those 10 don't really tell us what we want to know. So I thought it might be fun for people to know, where's your thyroid, right? So it's a little shield right in the front of your neck, and it has some lobes. And if you could palpate it, it feels like a kind of really soft little squishy thing. And we also have a lot of lymph nodes here, so sometimes it's hard to differentiate where those are. But if you took your fingers and you could feel like a little tiny bone, like something kind of a little higher up, yeah. It's called the hyoid. And usually if you swallow, you can feel it kind of move up and down. Your thyroid is below that. So that's the top of it, and then it works its way down. So sometimes if people have a thyroid condition, this will be very swollen, or part of it would be swollen. A long time ago, people used to get goiters. That was like, giant. And those are not uncommon still, but often more in the Midwest where the soil is very iodine deficient, actually, which is why people started getting iodized table salt, right, to really avoid that situation. Though, of course, we all didn't need it, so I usually check, that's one of the 10 tests I do, is actually check your iodine and selenium levels to see where are you at and is it a good balance. Before, lots of people like to say, oh, take Lugol's iodine, well, do you actually need it, I'd rather be sure that you actually need something before I'm going to actually recommend it, so that's the scientific part of what gets found in the lab work. Or there's all different kinds of testing I actually incorporate into my physical exam as well, because I also do functional medicine. So I do have a nice little handout. It's called Hypothyroid versus Hypoadrenal. And it's kind of interesting to look at the differentiation. Actually, I put it over there for you. Not everybody is low thyroid. Some people they're too high. Some people have nodules. So how do you figure it out? So it's first starts with the exam, and then second with labs. So if we could go like this, okay, how many people their skin and hair are dry? Okay, so that's one sign of hypothyroid. What about cold hands and feet? even though it's, 90 degrees out. Anybody with cold hands and feet? Okay, a couple of people. What about constipation, or just feels like unable to have things move through you very well? Most people don't want to talk about that, but nature pass, we ask people about poop, we do all these weird things. I mean, it's because it's so important what you put in your mouth and actually how things come out. This is our normal body flow and we want it to be good. So if your thyroid slows down, it actually will lower your heart rate. So this is another thing. If you've always been like, oh, my blood pressure's low, my temperature's low, my heart rate's low, that's very common with hypothyroid. And when your heart rate goes low, it tells your digestion to slow down. That's often why people get constipation, because it's just not doing its job well. Or you gain weight and you're like, I'm eating the same things. Why am I gaining weight? Or it's really hard to lose weight. So those are some of the hypo kind of thyroid stuff. Let's see. Sometimes your hair can get so dry it feels like straw, like it's like really brittle. And that's very weird because it's, it's not our normal, and then all of a sudden it happens, and you're like, what the heck? Sometimes with low thyroid you can't sleep well. Also, if your adrenals are off, you don't sleep well as well. So that's, part of like, how do we figure that out? Oftentimes with hypothyroid, people are really tired though. Adrenal people usually have enough energy some of the day, and then it just drops, like especially between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. So you either get tired or you crave sugar, because you need something to pick yourself back up. So part of what I do is how do we differentiate these things and figure out how to help a person. So the other thing can happen is joint pain. It's like, how many people have joint pain, right? A lot of us do. And you think, oh, I'm old, or I did such and such, or I picked up too many rocks because I'm gardening, or it's like, that's not necessarily normal that you would have that pain. If you didn't have it 5 or 10 years ago, why is it now? And I don't really believe in the whole thing about getting older, unless you get older and you don't do anything. We're great at being couch potatoes. But evolutionarily we're designed to move, and so I'm always encouraging people, get enough sleep. So if you're not sleeping well, that's important to address. Drink enough water, do some kind of movement. I don't care if you dance naked in your living room, whatever. Walk, something. And do something that's meaningful, that makes you happy. That's really important, actually. So I want to know what's with the girl in the bikini.
Oh, yeah. She's our model for learning points.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. She just
I walked in, I'm like, okay.
She's just hanging out.
Waiting to be touched.
Does she have a name? Yeah, right.
Yeah, her name is Eve.
Eve?
Eve.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Gotta love that one. So this is some other things about hypothyroid or hypoadrenal. So, do you startle easily? And this is a thing that most MDs would never ask you. Are you sensitive to light, sounds, or smells? Because some people are very sensitive to stuff like that. So those are actually usually about the adrenal glands versus thyroid. And part of why I look at this kind of the triad of, your pituitary gland, which is the master gland that actually your hypothalamus is talking to, talks to the thyroid. The thyroid talks to your adrenals. They're little hats that sit on top of your kidneys, and they affect your hormones, which is the rest of your parts, really. But your adrenals also make hormones as well. So this whole communication, is important, which is another good thing about moving. We help our body's circulation, get moving, and that's how our body does stuff. So these chemicals have to get down here. And this is the part I think a lot of people, so if you go to a regular doctor, TSH is the one thing they'll measure. So do you guys know what TSH is, right? It's your thyroid stimulating hormone. So it's a chemical signal from the pituitary gland, and it really sits like right back here, which is why I'm pointing here. It's a little tiny guy. It talks to your thyroid. Well, if you just measure that, which could be high or low, or it could be normal, but you don't measure what comes out of the thyroid, and that's total T4, free T4, total T3, and free T3. And those are the things that are going around in the body and actually doing their job, doing the metabolism, helping your sleep, helping your heart rate. So if you don't measure those things that come out of the thyroid, you're really not getting a full picture of what's happening in your body in a good way. So those are 5 different tests. And I usually check 2 autoantibodies, which are thyroid peroxidase, or TPO, that's pretty easy, or thyroglobulin antibody, TGA, iodine and selenium, and then something called reverse T3. So there is, I hope you would know, doing what you all do, that our body has its own wisdom. And when there's too much T3, which can happen with hyperthyroidism, there actually is this molecule called reverse T3 that's kind of like a little box that the body will put extra T3 in there to make it inactive. Because it's, if there was too much T3, then, you know, hyperthyroid is your heart rate can go up, you're sweating all the time, you feel kind of wound up, you're not sleeping well. You can actually get pressure behind your eyes, because severe hypothyroidism is, you know, the eyes actually will get protrude and really push you, and you lose weight because your metabolism is way cranked up. So, you know, the body's always trying to protect itself, so we'll put this stuff in this little molecule, like this is inactive, and shut that down. So, you know, I always look and see, okay, where are we standing in the body and what's happening? So that's why I do such a large range of tests just for thyroid. So, let's see what else. Oh, I found this great thing about, so your thyroid regulates your breathing, your heart rate, your central and peripheral nervous system. So I often have people come in and they're like, okay, I have this nervous foot, or this, like it feels like things get numb, or, you know, so most of us would think, okay, I gotta see a neurologist to figure out what the heck, and look at the electrical conductivity of my nerves, which is a valid test, really. But the other thing can be, if your thyroid is messed up, it will actually affect your nervous system. It affects your weight and your muscular strength. It can affect women's menstrual cycles and make them a lot heavier. It can affect your temperature, which is where it's too low, really. And this is the piece that a lot of people don't think, okay, how many people have gone to the doctor and you get your lipids checked and your cholesterol is high? If it's over 200, that's, I mean, you know, what they consider problematic. So most doctors are going to go, okay, you need to do a statin, or you got to watch your diet, or whatever. But they don't ask you why. Why? Why does the cholesterol go up, right? Why do your triglycerides go up? So yes, some of it's dietary, but it's the same story of your body's wisdom. It's trying to protect itself. And when your organs, kidney, adrenal, thyroid, pancreas, stomach, or whatever, are having trouble, or even your vessels, not like what they can get micro damage. Cholesterol is like a little tiny Band-Aid. It's like a little Band-Aid for those organs to repair them, and that's part of their chemical signal to your liver to make more cholesterol, is like a little patch. So, you know, people freak out and go, oh, I have too much cholesterol and I'm gonna get plaque and then I'm gonna have a stroke or whatever. Those things now are pretty much debunked, right? So, you know, you can still do red yeast rice or CoQ10 or whatever, but I always look at, okay, why? Why is it happening? And if your thyroid's low, your cholesterol goes up. So, let's see what else.
Dr. Saber?
Yes, I think that's my whole
So
story.
if you want to just, maybe, I would like to keep about 10 minutes for you to, people to ask you questions.
Sure.
We're into about 14 minutes already into
Okay.
the talk. And so we usually go 20, 25 minutes. So anytime if you want to open the floor to questions,
Okay.
and finish up, you go, whatever you want to do right now.
Okay, well, I do have this handout if you want over here, and just a general brochure about what we do, what I do at the office, and I'm good if people want to ask questions. Cool. Yes.
You've mentioned selenium several times. Could you explain the role?
Actually, I'm not sure. That's probably, I wish I did, but what we usually find is if selenium is low, I think selenium and iodine actually play together to help your T4. It actually gets cleaved where it gets pulled apart to make the T3, so it's actually part of that. Yeah, and there's a selenium that is called seleniomethionine, which is actually the best kind of selenium actually for our absorption, which is a particular kind that has another molecule actually stuck on it. So, anybody else? Yes.
So if the cholesterol is affected by the thyroid, how do you treat?
Well, I make sure the people do not have low thyroid or low adrenal, because those are the top two reasons. So I usually look a little bit more, but I often do all those 10 thyroid tests as well as looking at people's cholesterol and blood sugar and liver and kidney function and all together. And so when people come back to my second visit, which is an hour, I go through actually a written functional analysis of all these labs. And I love to look at stuff over time. So sometimes if you have 3 or 4 years worth of stuff, you can actually see these patterns over time, and then that can take the guesswork out of finding what's the underlying cause actually.
But treat in between in that 3 or 4 year period, do treatment with BioTouch and nutritional treatment?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Lots of different things to help. There's, lots of different thyroid support stuff out there. The biggest one I try to check is like if all your thyroid levels are low and you have no symptoms, then you probably can just do herbs. But if they're all really low and you have all the symptoms, sometimes I do have people take medicine. So.
You mean allopathy?
It's like, it is a prescription, like Thyroid is probably the cleanest one that you can actually get now.
Can you get that anymore?
Yeah, you can.
Well,
I
I've
prescribe
been
it
in
all
for
the
many
time.
years, but lately they haven't even get.
CVS says they can't get it anymore.
Well, that's their story, But yeah, I probably have over 300 people on Thyroid. So the company that manufactures it are in Arizona, and they went through a process in December of rebuilding their manufacturing facilities. So they got way back ordered, and they're still catching up. But there are a number of the strengths that are actually available. But they make a whole bunch and they send it to a national distribution site, and then it goes out. So, but people call me from CVS and Walgreens and Walmart and Costco and all this, they have been for months, which has just been annoying. But yeah, it's still out there. Yes.
Is that similar to Synthroid?
No, Thyroid is actually made from organic pork. It is a glandular product. Synthroid is made from chemicals.
Okay.
Yeah.
They do the same thing essentially?
They do for some people. a lot of people actually don't do well on Synthroid, so I usually don't put people on the chemical version of thyroid unless we've tried everything else and we know that actually works for them, so.
Do
Yes.
you use Armor Thyroid?
Sometimes, Armor has gluten in it, actually, and a lot of my patients are also sensitive to gluten because they also deal with a lot of food allergies, or they have celiac, or they have some intolerance to gluten, and so that doesn't work for them. So, yes.
Where, do nodules fit into all of that? Why are they from?
Well, people get, it's almost like a cyst on the thyroid. There are two different kinds where if you went and got a thyroid scan, they have cold nodules and hot nodules. And one of them is considered cancer and one is not. So sometimes you can actually just do a thyroid ultrasound, which is a lot less invasive, and find a nodule. Some people have them for years and it doesn't do anything. It's just there. I kind of check in with people about, do you have cysts anywhere else in your body? Do you have fibrocystic breast? Have you had ovarian cysts? Have you had kidney or gallstones? Because all those things are similar, where the body's trying to encase something, and I think of it really as a protection. So it's like, I don't know what to do with this thing, I'm gonna stick it in a little ball, You can find them in your lungs too sometimes, so, yeah. You have a question? Anybody else? Yeah, you're good, yes.
What about the role of inflammation? Like just the whole autoimmune issue being at root, an inflammatory process, and then treating it just, with anti-inflammatories, anti-inflammatory foods,
right.
lifestyle,
Mhm.
Just that whole take on it.
Well, I usually check 5 different inflammation markers with my labs as well, and then that can let me know, is it mild for you, or is it more moderate, or is it pretty severe? And obviously, people have signs and symptoms of inflammation sometimes. You have joint pain, or like you just feel too warm sometimes, because it's actually a physical, swelling or something like that. So sometimes if it's like a gut thing, one of my practitioners in my office does digital infrared thermal imaging, and you can actually see inflammation in the body. So it's pretty interesting because it's red. It's flame on. So yeah, I usually do treat a lot of inflammation because so many of us have that because of our diet, or whatever we've been exposed to as far as toxins.
So you can kind of directly relate it to particularly thyroid issues?
It can aggravate it. I don't know if it's like A equals B. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Inflammation.
I'm sorry.
Turmeric.
Turmeric is good for inflammation. Yes, it is. Yep. Just take plenty of it, and
With
that's
black pepper.
like 3 times a day or something, probably. Most people take 1, but if you take it 3 times a day, yes.
If a person is prone to infection, does that have anything to do with the thyroid?
Not usually. Yeah, that's more of a general immune system.
General immune?
Yeah, and probably the gut, because 80% of our immune system is actually in our large intestines, which is weird, but that's it. Yeah. So.
Any other questions for Dr. Saber?
I have one.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Finley. So, what does it mean, if anything, if you've been taking the Synthroid, thyroid medication for a number of years, long time, and then you lose weight, and then things kind of get out of balance, and even if your medication is adjusted, they're still like, not balanced, what, if anything, would that mean?
It probably means you don't have enough T3.
Okay.
Yeah, Synthroid is mostly T4, and that, you know, we need that, but if it's not converting to free T3, then, which is the most active molecule that actually does the main metabolism and so forth, then you probably need to be on something else. So I actually switched a lot of people off Synthroid, so.
To other things?
Yeah.
Such as what, the nature Throid?
To the nature Throid, or sometimes we add in extra T3,
Is that Cytomel?
Cytomel. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you for good questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Y'all get to work with
I'm gonna put a chair up there, put my little picture on there like I'm supposed to be there. No, I'm not gonna do
No, he
that.
can enjoy his key lime pie all by himself.
I know, isn't that the truth? I'm like, no. But I would like to thank Dr. Saber for coming tonight. This has been amazing. We're just so pleased that you took the time to be here. What we're gonna do real quick is we're gonna be learning the specific sets that we recommend for thyroid conditions. Just a few, and as we know, these are just the this is just the beginning, because BioTouch lets us do those basic things and then listen to the wisdom of our bodies. I really like that, because we're always talking about what BioTouch does, that our bodies are totally intelligent units of consciousness. They know what to do with BioTouch. So we're going to learn tonight those specific sets of points that are going to help us address all those conditions that the thyroid can cause or not cause. I'm not sure what that is, but let me start out by handing out our workbooks, because we all get a workbook along with this. Yeah, my dear. And so before we begin, when you get I'll just wait for a minute until everybody gets one. We're going to just turn the page, because we're just going to, is there anybody here who hasn't been to a class or a workshop, that hasn't known anything about BioTouch? Well, you get it all the time.
I know something about it, but I've not been.
But you haven't actually, okay.
Beginning next month.
Okay, all right, good. So that'll be good. At least there's, so what I want to talk about is, what BioTouch is, for those who haven't really taken our classes or been on our website and actually done any BioTouch. This is a very non-invasive modality. It is a very light butterfly touch. Dr. Saber, you're more than welcome to sit over there on that chair if you want to.
No, okay, please.
If you want to sit down. Anyway, BioTouch is just a very simple technique that use the first two fingers of both hands, lightly touching. In fact, why don't we reach over and just, our neighbor, just touch each other lightly on the skin. Just like a butterfly. That's just the amount of pressure that we use. The lighter that we touch, the more the body is going to feel it. I know it sounds crazy, but it's like, so for sure, once we start addressing those specific points on the body, our bodies understand this technique and will use it to address whatever it is that we are trying to help it to understand, and take those points and to really address whatever's going on in the body. So let's go ahead and just look real quick. Okay, so even children can learn it. It's so simple. Well, we've actually had children become certified in BioTouch. And I always think of BioTouch as one of those techniques that as we are children, we lose all of those things that get in our way of really stepping into this relationship of healing and helping another human being. All the ego, all the, is this working? Am I doing right? Is it good enough? All this stuff goes away with BioTouch. And we become as little children. We step in with each other and we feel safe, and we just get to be present with another human being. It's, like I said on the show the other day, it's sexless, it's genderless, it's no religion, there's no color, there's nothing.
No ego.
It's exactly, no ego. It's just an opportunity for each one of us, whether you're giving it or receiving it. It's a true relationship. We're all going to get something out of it. And the best thing is, it starts on the body. How perfect is that? It's the body that we recognize each other in. It's the body that holds all of our trauma. It holds all of our memories in the cells. And so it has to begin on the body, but wow, what happens after that with consistency? The body and all of its different parts begin to the body wants to be whole. It wants to be in balance. That's what BioTouch really offers us. And with consistency, that's going to happen, because something does begin to happen. Even sometimes we don't see it. Sometimes, as we know, we have an instant relief. Sometimes it's a longer journey, but something's going to happen. So children can learn it. We need to use BioTouch as a child, just trusting each other. You know, I think we've got to change this. We used to say it's a complementary, not an alternative, which is true, because it complements and enhances everything that BioTouch can use with something else. But it's really more holistic, W-H-O-L. It's holistic because it addresses all those parts of us. And unlocks all of the cellular memory over time, and we begin to heal in all of those bodies. So it's integrative. It not just complements everything, but it works so well with everything. So, you know, Paul and I are like on this journey to bring this into the allopathic and even the naturopathic, all of these different modalities. Because it's time for us. It's time for us to be there, and it's worthwhile, and it's easy. It all belongs to all of us. We all need to be doing it, not just with each other, but at home, wherever we are. It's just an amazing gift. So there's no levels of ability. The moment that tonight you're all going to practice those points with each other, the moment that you touch somebody else, you're going to be totally effective. And you're going to take that away with you tonight. There's no levels of mastery, there's no initiations, there's no, paying $1 million, and there's certainly not this idea that only a few are capable of using something. Like, that's still separative. BioTouch is here to say to all of us, every single one of us gets to use this. That equalizes the playing field. There's not one person, that knows how to do this, and the rest of us, oh yeah. So we're still having this, I'm the healer, and you're the one being healed. BioTouch lets us be both. It just levels all of that and brings us together as equals. So it's meant for every single one of us, and every single one of us is effective immediately. The moment you do that greeting that we're going to share with you tonight, opens the body up, it's the key, and healing begins. Healing begins immediately, and you're going to be immediately effective. No belief system. We honor everybody's belief system. We honor everybody's, what did Paul say after the election? You actually are working with people who voted this way or voted that way? What's that got to do with anything? Yeah, it's a human being coming in here in pain and suffering, and that's all we care about. So there's no belief or state of mind here. All we do is touch. I can care for you. That's what BioTouch is here to say. We can care for each other anywhere, anytime, and be totally effective. I think it's too much for us, maybe. In this Western mentality of some got it and some don't got it, you know? We all got it. You all have the juice. It's already there, it's been there. We just have to be willing to step up and claim it for ourselves. So I could be in the worst state of mind of the week, and I'm gonna go up and touch somebody and do biotouch. It has nothing to do. I'm gonna be totally effective. Because it's not about anything other than that recipient's body is receiving that touch. And of course, I'm gonna get something back too. That's what happens. So, basically, that's kind of like our little spiel on what biotouch is. We always wash our hands. We always use these first two fingers, and we hold each point in the set that we're gonna be doing 6 to 8 seconds. That's it. That's all there is. Nothing else. So tonight, we're going to be learning 4 specific sets of points or series of points. We're going to be, and I'm doing this because we're not live streaming this week. So we're going to be learning the greeting, which we do, whatever we're going to do, we do the greeting. We're going to be using metabolism, which works with the thyroid, which is amazing. We're going to be using the head, learning the head set, and learning to do local work on the body for thyroid conditions and the adrenals. So that's very simple how we're going to do this. So I think Sherilyn, can you turn the thing off? Yes, I'm ready. And then we're going to pull Eva, and we're going to